The What It Takes Radio Company is proud to present Stan Houston with interesting ideas for insight, influence, impact, and income. And today, we saw the Donald Trump indictment. And could it be that there are really big stakes involved in all of life today? Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It's a Wednesday of the Holy Week. And I thought since this is Holy Week, I'm going to do a radio program. This is Interesting Ideas. And I thought, well, maybe I'll actually put it on the video channels too. So not only is this going to those of you dear friends who listen via radio on the podcast networks, but for some of you who also take time to look at us in the various YouTube channels that we have. So that's where I am today. It's Wednesday, and this is Interesting Ideas. What I'm doing today is thinking a lot about just exactly what you should be thinking about at this particular time. It's Wednesday. For those in the Jewish tradition, it's also coming up to Passover. And then at the same time around Passover, we also have what is called the Maundy Thursday. And that's the day in which Jesus had the Last Supper, the Passover supper, with his disciples. And then later on, he was taken into custody and arrested. And then on the basis of the indictment that occurred on that Thursday, he was tried on Friday. He was found guilty. And he was executed on Friday. Saturday, everybody thought, as my program was, and it always is in life, all was lost. Everything was lost. Everything they'd worked for, everything they cared for was gone. But those of us who celebrate the rest of the story know the old line of the black preacher who said, it's Friday, but Sunday's a-coming, and I'm not going to try and in any way repertoire his rhetorical and his accented skills, but indeed, it's Friday, but Sunday is coming. So that's the story. Now, yesterday, I did a program just on the radio, which said, just as Jesus said, Father, forgive them, they do not know what they do, that can oftentimes be true of a lot of us. We don't know what we're doing. We do things and we think they're the right things and we think they're the smart things, but we don't know what we do. Now, the indictment of Donald Trump came out, and fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your point of view, it is an indictment, but it is an incredibly weak indictment. And in fact, the consensus of a lot of people is, whether they like it or not, that it's a very, very poor work. In fact, what is the crime? And as a result, my prediction is true. If he is indicted, he may not be convicted, as many people say. It probably won't even go to trial. Something will be settled before that, and he's not going to go to jail. That's not going to happen. And what we will find is that the other two trial indictments, trying to do indictments, are probably, though they are claimed to be a bit stronger, not really. Not really at all. So there we are. And how many millions of dollars did New York City spend on the spectacle of yesterday? And they'll have to spend it again at the hearing. And as I said to one of my New York friends, I said, okay, is a New York City a better and safer city today now that Donald Trump has been indicted? Well, I'm not so sure they appreciated my question, but it is the question, and they knew the answer to that is probably not. And all of that money, and it's gone now. Okay, but here's what happened. I actually mentioned in the conversation that, in effect, for both sides, these are pretty big stakes. And then all of a sudden, for some reason, I went back and I said, I remember writing an article on big stakes sometime years ago. And so I went back and looked in my archives, and I found I actually had, this goes back not quite, but almost 20 years ago, I wrote an article entitled Big Stakes. So I changed my glasses. My usual glasses are non-glare. But since I'm reading something up close, I have to change my glasses, and they are a bit glary. But you know what? For those of you who see me on the radio, you obviously don't care. And for those of you who do, say, well, it doesn't look that much different because you don't look very good anyhow. So it doesn't matter about the glasses, but here it goes, just so you know. Big stakes. I've never done the exercise, but I've thought about it occasionally. Perhaps you too. It goes something like this. You can choose 5 books to take with you on a desert island. That is your reading material for a long time, perhaps even for the rest of your life. What would you choose? Now, to keep it more interesting, the Bible or your particular holy scriptures, whatever they are, and at least for the English-speaking world, Shakespeare, they're a given. So you can't include those. You get those for free. So actually you get 7, but what 5 would you choose? All right. I went on to say this. I don't know what books I would choose, but I suspect that my copy of God in Search of Man by Abraham Heschel would be in strong contention. Who was Abraham Heschel? Well, Heschel was an extraordinarily brilliant Jewish thinker, philosopher, and very much involved in the civil rights movement here in the United States. He was also a leader, very prominent leader, in the dialogue between Christians and Jews, trying to find mutual understandings and relationships, and in campaigns against anti-Semitism, and trying to help Jewish and Christians try to come together on the things they had in common rather than the things that separated them. You'll see an old picture of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and standing right next to him is a white-haired man that is kind of a look-alike between Einstein and God, as portrayed by Michelangelo in the Sistine Chapel ceiling. That really is what he looked like. Well, that was Abraham Heschel. Now, you may have caught the twist. Did you pay attention? In the title of the book I mentioned. Oftentimes, the religious experience is called Man or Woman in Search of God. But to Heschel, it's the other way around. Yeah, just think about that for a while. Man in search of God? No, God in search of man. One of Heschel's challenging observations has caused me to be more aware of people and events. And now I remember this because I think I've tried to live by it in some ways. The secret of every being is the divine care and compassion that are invested in it. The secret of every human being is the divine care and compassion that are invested in it. Something sacred is at stake in every event. Something sacred is at stake in every event. Big stakes. Wow, could that really be so? Could every client encounter, every commercial transaction, every time I connect with or confront another, could they all have those high stakes involved? Could there really be something sacred at stake in every human event? If so, what is it? Was the event that happened yesterday in New York a sacred event? Heschel would say yes. Well, then, what's at stake? If it is, what difference does that truth make in my performance, in how I treat others, and how I live today and every day? Could it be? And I point this out in a little video that I'll probably show sometime tomorrow, early in the day if you want to look at it, in which I point out that one of the principles of the universe is there is no neutrality. That as we work and connect with each other, there is something at stake. You either bless or you curse. One or the other. The person is better off because of the confrontation or the transaction or the event, or they're not. And if they're not, maybe you either bless or you curse. Perhaps there's no neutrality. And Abraham Heschel would say, if we really want to make the world work, we all have to come to the understanding that in every event, it's a sacred event. Now, that doesn't mean it's good. It just means it has real consequences. And it has the potential for something not only good, but sacred, if perhaps we do it right. That's the deal. So I would encourage you to think about that. And perhaps as you go through this season, it simply may be a family time for you, a holiday time. For some of you, it is a religious tradition. And for some of you, it's even deeper than that. It's a time not only to celebrate a religious tradition, but to see if there can be some significant ways that what might be at stake in this weekend is a significant, transforming, almost miraculous event in your life. Could that be? Could it be that in the next few days, something really big is at stake? I'm Stan Houston. These are interesting ideas. All the best and blessings to you, and bye for now. Well, thank you indeed for taking time to be with us. I'm grateful. Reach out to us, stanhouston@gmail.com, and please check out our YouTube channel about podcasting called Reaching Your Audience, How to Be a World-Class Podcaster. And also remember that leave a message, 520-664-7002 USA, and tell us how we can help you, and we'll get back in touch with you. And also remember that we have a podcast on the podcast channel, so always check out Interesting Ideas with Stan Houston. And this program, like all of our programs, is a production of the What It Takes Radio Company, helping you to reach your audience, a podcasting and publishing company to help you have a touch of immortality in your life.